All right, now once again, Andre Tremere Wade come to try to talk about some things that has taken place in my life outside the walls of confinement and also inside the walls of confinement. I was trying to sit here and I was thinking about what can I call this? What can I name this? And what came to my mind was just release. Because I have been just released from prison, Texas prisons. So I come to talk a little bit more about what taken place with me inside the walls of confinement here in Texas. I believe I spoke about me being placed on East Ham. And I'd like to pick up where I left off and talk a little bit about East Ham. East Ham was an old unit. This unit, East Ham was the place where Clyde escaped from. Bonnie and Clyde. Well, Clyde was in the old East Ham. Now, the East Ham that I was at is the new East Ham, which they built later. Because the old East Ham, where Clyde escaped from, the cell blocks was under the ground. We're talking about Texas prisons. And I've had an opportunity by working in the fields. At times when we go out, we used to go over to the old East Ham. And I would look at the place, and I was like, man, I would never want to be in that place. But right outside the old East Ham, they had a graveyard. And the graveyard was of inmates who had died. And the graveyard, it had weeds all over the place. The place wasn't kept. But when you go over here by the chicken horn, where the chicken house was, they had a dog graveyard where all they dogs done died, they old hound dogs. And would you believe that the dog graveyard, they kept the grass cut, they kept the weeds pulled up? I mean, I thought that was a graveyard for some people or something, right? But it was a dog graveyard. And I was like, man, you tell me these people ain't crazy. When I was in the fields, when I first got there, and they told me, they said, well, wait, we're gonna put you in 7-hole. I say, 7-hole? What's that? He say, 7-hole, whole squad. I say, oh, I don't know about working in no 7-hole. I said, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm finna do this 45. Y'all talking about 7-hole. So the warden told me. He said, well, wait. He say, before it's over with, you're gonna figure it out. But you're going in them fields tomorrow. So the next day, once I gotten a place to live and everything, I had to see what was going on in the place. And what was going on in the place was like I say, it was dangerous. Newcomers come in, you are watched, you are looked at, you are sized up. So people, want to try you and see what you're about. I had a brand new pair of tennis shoes on my feet, Giorgio Bertini. So all eyes was on my feet. So I had an incident where a guy came to me and talked about my shoes. And he asked me what size they was. I said, your size. I said, your size. But he had a big feet. All the time, he was ready to get my shoes for a punk. He was ready to get my shoes for a punk, to give to a punk. So that incident, when he seen that I was ready to fight, because just me saying that they are his size, then he already knew I was ready to fight, because like I say, this was my first time in prison. It was my third time. But he knew from the statement that I made, I was ready to fight for mine, because I ain't giving up no booty. I ain't giving up no shoes. I ain't giving up none of Doris' money. I was ready to fight for mine. I was ready to go to blows for mine. And when I was on the pod, and my celly hadn't came home. So he was on the weightlifting team, and I hadn't seen who he was, but I was in the day room coming from Last Chow. And when I seen this big old guy, I'm talking about a big weightlifting guy, chest way out of here. And I say, who is that? He had on some tight pants, tight shirt. And I'm like, man, who is that? So the partner that I was with, he said, "That's your celly, Dre." I say, "My celly?" This guy was so big, I'm talking about, I was like, man, I hope I don't have to try to whoop this dude. So when we got in the cell, I kind of, got familiar with him. He was from Houston, like me. Houston, Texas. Home of the Houston Astros. Yeah. World Series winners. Yeah. Texans. We'll win a Super Bowl. Yeah, we will. Rockets will win a championship with Harden. I know y'all don't like him, but with Harden. But when I got in the cell and I got to talking to the guy, and we kind of got familiar because we both was from Houston, but all the time, this big old weightlifter, I'm talking about, when I say big, this guy was big. He was gay. The boy was gay. Now, my first 2 times in prison, I never really had an opportunity to see the prison for what it was, because my first time I did 3 months. My second time I did 7 months. So now I'm back on my 3rd time. I have to serve 45 years, and now I have to learn how to live in this prison system, because the first time I would see parole would be in 2001. So I got 11 years to do before I see the people. So my mindset was to entertain anything that came my way that wasn't right. I was ready to fight. And in them, at that time, it's some guys that I've known. It was some guys that I've met. And these guys in this prison system at this time, they had a mindset that what they wanted to do, they did it. They didn't care about who they hurt. I remember when ragtime, it was real quiet because you had to turn on your radios. The lights couldn't be on. And all you heard at night was men crying. The men was crying because the place was so serious and so dangerous, they couldn't take it. And you had men moaning that was having sex. The prison of my day. This is the things that was going on on East Ham. Some of the oldest criminals that you thought was dead was doing time on East Ham. Because I had just missed the bill attender day. The bill attenders who used to beat down men, even in some of their own homeboys out their own neighborhoods. These bill attenders was hurting and raping men. It was a sad place. It was a place of fear, a place where men cried, a place where men lost their dignity and became something they never knew they'll become. A punk. A punk is what you will become. Even right now today, if you are not strong enough, you'll become a punk. In prison right now today, and it's 2018. But I don't call today's prison penitentiaries. I call them prison, because that's what they are. It's a prison system. It's a system where they place you in there, and the majority of the people that's in Pure Line are 25 to 30. And they taking psych pills, they taking all kind of pills. I remember the first time I was transferred to the Bill Clemens unit. And for the first time I seen inmates snorting some of the names. So I thought they were snorting cocaine, because I know drugs come into the prison. But these boys was sniffing Cogenins, psych pills, up their nose. They just enjoyed the high. And then you can just go on to the Robinson unit, the McConnell unit, the Wynn unit, Ellis 1, all the places I've been. And everywhere I've been, it was basically the same. Boys getting turned out. Boys not knowing that there's certain things you don't have to do in prison. There's certain things you don't have to put up with prison. That you can do what you want to do in prison. Even if you know that you'll fight. But there's a part of prison that want to help you if you reach out to them. They have prison safety now. They have a thing called PREA, and they serious about that. They serious about that because a fight right now in today's prison in Texas, one fight can get you 50 years while inside the institution. So do you still want to fight? I ask guys when they say they pray a lot. So I ask them, is you praying to be free to stay out? Or are you praying to be free to come back? We have to ask ourselves. So join my show next time and find out what I have to talk about Texas prison. Thank you for all listening.